The non-existent 2020 summer movie season has almost come to a close. Another month has passed us by. That means today I'm going to stop and rank all 7 July new releases that I saw from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all the July 2020 new releases that you saw. Obviously, bit of a weird year, not as many big blockbuster hit films because there are no blockbusters, as there are no blocks to bust, as there are no movies releasing in theaters. But we did still get stuff like Hamilton on Disney Plus. One more thing before we get started. If you kind of enjoy my content and want even more, consider joining over on Patreon. In the month of July, I put out 8 exclusive videos over there and had 2 exclusive live streams. If you enjoy my content and want more, consider joining over there. The link is down below in the description, and let's get started. Easily coming in last place is Desperados. This is a Netflix original comedy, and I was actually pretty excited to check this movie out because the lead actress in it played Dahlia in Aladdin, and I'd never seen her in anything before, and I thought in Aladdin she did a great job of playing against Will Smith and kind of holding her own, being funny, charming, while playing against like the most charismatic actor of the last 30 years. So the idea that she was going to get a star vehicle had me pretty excited to check it out. And wow, did she get a bad movie as her star vehicle. Right off the bat, the basic plot of it feels like just like a throwaway episode of Friends or How I Met Your Mother. Not a great episode, a totally throwaway, forgettable episode, except it has, 100-minute runtime. The jokes feel like a bunch of outdated, stale, throwaway jokes from a bad, raunchy 90s comedy. Every single thing about it is predictable. Within the first 15 minutes, you'll know where it's actually going to end, even though it makes you think it's heading in a different direction. Beyond that, some of it is just unbelievably ill-conceived. As in, there's a running joke in it that's borderline pedophilia. It involves this woman like being naked and being groped by a child. That's a running joke. Another one is borderline bestiality. That's the movie. That's the movie and where this film goes with things. Beyond that, it's just filled with like outdated stereotypes about women being irrational, emotional, impulsive, obsessed with guys. And then at the same time, it'll stand on a soapbox and kind of preach a bunch of female empowerment, feminist, sex positive messaging side by side with like these unbelievably outdated retrograde stereotypes about women, and it can't even stick to its message. Like, you get to the end of it and it has this very clear message about how she shouldn't need a man in her life, and then you get to the end of it and rewards her with a man. Like, I don't know how this movie got greenlit, who thought this was a good idea, and you just feel bad for everyone involved in it, that this is the film they got stuck with. Number 6 is Legacy of Lies. This is the latest Scott Adkins action thriller. It came out just 5 days ago, and unfortunately, it's not particularly good. Now, my standard for a Scott Adkins direct-to-video action film, is always right there in the middle. I just want a simple plot that provides plenty of opportunities for him to kick people in the face, punch people in the face, and shoot people in the face. Granted, this movie has plenty of him kicking people in the face, punching people in the face, and shooting people in the face. It's actually a major plot point that he shoots the wrong person in the face. The problem here is that the story has about twice as many layers, twice as many characters, twice as many subplots as it needs to have for the story that they're trying to tell. And it's not good enough at any of them to be able to pull off this amount of complexity. And so you're watching through it, and at first you're like, oh, simple enough. I understand the basic plot line here of what they're going for. And then it keeps adding layers, and then there's like, normally complexity, layers, nuance are good things to have in a movie. But this one, it went, all right, instead of developing this layer will just add more layers to this thing over here. So instead of a quality complex layered story, you just have layers upon layers upon layers that don't really go together. So when the movie ended, both my wife and I are like, what did I just watch? And so we had to like slowly talk through the plot line. We're like, okay, I guess I see what it's going for, but why did everything get complex? Like, the basic structure involves the lead character's daughter getting kidnapped, which, simple enough, that's action setup of he's motivated because his daughter's kidnapped. Okay, cool. But then it's also like his former employees are brought into it, and there's this girl that it tries to make messaging about fake news. Like, it actually says fake news, and it has like a character talking directly to the camera, giving a monologue at the end. There's nothing to do with the rest of the movie. It's a movie that just tried to throw everything in there, and because it threw everything in there, none of it really works. Like, if it had literally just trimmed half the plot lines, half the subplots, and been a little bit more straightforward, it would have bumped up a couple spots on this list. Next up is Deep Blue Sea 3. Now you might be thinking, Sean, was there ever a Deep Blue Sea 2? Yes, there was. It came out a couple years ago, and it was terrible. My wife and I checked it out, and it was in my bottom 10 of that year. I just thought it was a dreadful, dreadful movie that felt like it was trying to blend Jurassic Park and Deep Blue Sea, and none of it really worked, and it just felt low budget. Oddly enough, I actually dug this one. Now, it's not a great film, obviously. It's a direct-to-video shark movie, and it knows it's a direct-to-video shark movie, but as a direct-to-video shark movie, it's actually pretty competently made. It's on a script level, it's kind of on par with The Meg. It doesn't have the star power of The Meg, doesn't have the budget of The Meg, and it doesn't have the director of The Meg. But beyond that, on a script, the story's pretty coherent. It's schlocky shark stuff, like the stuff you expect from a movie like this. But if they give a character an arc, it goes somewhere. If they set something up, it pays off. There's subplots, but not too many subplots. And so it's a movie that, if you're in the mood for a direct-to-video shark movie, it's actually not too bad. Once again, not great cinema. When I say it's not too bad, we're talking about in the category of direct-to-video shark movies where there's a ton of unbelievably bad ones. But I kind of dug this movie. Number 4 is Greyhound. Pretty big jump in the caliber of film from Deep Blue Sea 3 to Greyhound. This is a Tom Hanks starring and actually written World War II naval war film. And basically the approach it takes is let's just simplify the journey and go straight into this single battle and make you feel like you're present on that ship for what they would experience. So it's not trying to be the biggest, the boldest, the most over-the-top, overblown war movie. In fact, the full runtime from opening frame to end credits is about 90 minutes. I mean, this is a short movie that has very kind of small amounts of character arcs for them, but the primary thing here is experiencing what it would be like to be on one of these ships and watching kind of them as their resources are depleted, as their energy, as just humans going through this multiple day battle that they're in, it starts to drain the life out of them. And you feel that. And because of that, I think it functions really well for what it's trying to do of putting you present on that ship. I enjoyed it on that level. I think it probably should have been about 10 minutes longer and given especially Tom Hanks's character a little bit more of an arc. There's some things that when you get to the end of it, we're kind of, I guess we knew some information at the beginning, but it doesn't make a big deal of it. And so you get to the end in what should be big payoff for what kind of this journey that he's been on doesn't pay off as well. And I think if they spent a little bit more time establishing who he is, the relevance of this journey, it makes all these little moments throughout the film work a little bit better, have a bit more punch to them. But I did enjoy the film for what it was, which was a simple naval film that's very much visceral in nature of you care about the fact that the captain has been walking too much and his feet are starting to bleed. It's that kind of film that has details that you can pay attention to. Real quick, before I give you my top 3, remember to share your picks down below in the comments section. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I didn't even see everything that came out. And I would love to see yours. Also, remember, I've got more exclusive content over on my Patreon page. You can check that out at the link down below. And these next 3 movies, I actually posted reviews of them on my channel. So I'll have some little cards right up here if you want to hear deeper thoughts on each of these films. In third place is Hamilton. Now, I'm not really a musical person. I'd never seen any previous versions of Hamilton. I'd heard a couple of the songs here and there. And so watching this, I don't know if you'd call it a movie. Most years, maybe I wouldn't include this, but because it is 2020 and we're limited on what was released, I decided to include it for that reason, and they weren't planning on releasing in theaters. I'm not the target audience for this film, but nonetheless, I could watch it and appreciate it for what it was and see the ways in which it's distinct and different inside of the Broadway musical genre, the way that it was very clever in its ability to intertwine humor in with music, and music that incorporates all these different genres. And it's also a film that the part that I wasn't expecting had a little bit more emotion to it, and you could feel the betrayals, the love triangles, the payoffs, the backstabbing. All that stuff actually had some weight to it, which is something I was not expecting when I went into it. Now, I know a lot of people are going kind of bananas for it. I'm not in that category. This is a movie to me that why I have the letter and the number scores, and I don't know what my letter and number scores for this one would be, but it's one that I can like respect it and give it that higher letter grade than necessarily giving it as high of an entertainment score, because it's not necessarily one that I'm going to go back and rewatch, but I'm glad I did experience it and I can appreciate it for what it is. Our runner-up is The Old Guard. This is the latest Netflix original action star vehicle, this one for Charlize Theron, and it actually is based off a comic book series, so this is a comic book franchise, and I really dug it. I had a good time with this one. What it does really well is giving a deep mythology. It is based off kind of the comic book series and these superhero characters. It plays like an action movie, but it has these fantasy elements, so it feels like this combination of some sort of action thriller with the Highlander movies, but with its own elements intertwined into it. The way the action is choreographed is cameras pulled back enough that you can kind of see what's going on, and it's pretty cool. The way it's choreographed it's well done, has its own distinct style to it. And so a movie that just combines a bunch of different things that I like, that I enjoy, all into one movie, one little nice little package. They probably should have introduced certain elements earlier in the film, during the first half of the film. Because of the nature of the characters in it, it feels a little bit like you're watching people in God mode, and that's not super entertaining. And the second half of the movie adds vulnerabilities, and so you can feel the tension as the action kind of plays out. There's a couple of repeated plot lines with betrayals and redemptions that you're like, okay, maybe we should have found some different journeys for a couple of these characters to add conflict and not kind of repeat what you did with each of these people. But in general, it delivered the action, the thrills that I wanted, and an interesting mythology that I would enjoy seeing explored more. But my number one movie for the month of July is Palm Springs. Now, this movie was not on my radar at all. I wasn't planning on watching it. I wasn't planning on reviewing it. And as soon as it came out, Twitter just lit up with people saying it was amazing, it was awesome. And I went into it barely knowing anything about it. And had I seen a trailer, I probably would have been much more excited for it, because I love time loop movies, and this is a time loop movie. And what it does so well is it finds ways to have a different angle on a familiar genre. We've seen Groundhog Day before and other stories that explore all of this. This one does a great job of basically having it centered around this single event, but the perspective of where we come into it is different. And instead of our point of view character being someone that's the first introduced, there's kind of other people kind of going on in this mix. And it was just an interesting twist on it. Likewise, making it kind of this romance that just you buy the chemistry of the two characters. It's fun, it's quirky, it's charming. The other thing it does well is that it spaces out certain reveals of what's going on, why it's going on really well. So as you're going through it, eventually things are revealed to us as to what motivations, why people are doing certain things, that reframes everything up to that point in time really efficiently, really effectively, to keep you engaged in one of these stories where it is, obviously repeating the same set of events over and over again. So I just really enjoyed this film. It made me laugh. It had emotion, and you really care about the central relationship inside of it. So it's my number one for July 2020. If you want my full take on some of these movies, check out that playlist right over there. If you want more content from Sean Chandler Talks About, check out my Patreon page at the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.